couple of years, etc., etc. So I'm Romuald. I'm a freelancer in full stack web development, and I also do a lot of open source work, including Vite plugin SSR, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow. And today is a workshop about server-side rendering. So the next on my screen is Mary. Maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm a front-end developer at Le Bon Coin. It's a website for classified ads in France. Yes.
Marcus, do you want to introduce yourself? I guess not. Okay, who's next on my list? Alexandra? Ah, I'm reading.
Marcus, do you want to introduce?
No mic on my side. It's not convenient because we are not in real life, but I'll still try to make it interactive. So let's also use the chat for anyone who doesn't have a mic. So let's make it interactive. So interrupt me if you have questions, let me know. Okay, who else? Who wants to introduce himself, herself? Anyone? I see Benoit just joined. Maybe you want to introduce yourself? All right, I guess we can get started. So who knows approximately? Okay. So who would say knows what server-side rendering is? Maybe we can quickly chat yes and no. Like I will start. Like, yes, I know what server-side rendering is. Okay, fair enough. All right. Okay, so I'll make, because I wasn't sure, but I guess we'll make it really quick about what server-side rendering is. So it's actually really simple. Server-side rendering is two things. One, the content of the page is rendered to HTML. Well, let me try to share the screen. Can you see my screen? All right, can you see my screen? Okay, I'm reading yes. I guess it's for the screen. All right, I guess you know. If you don't see the screen, speak the audio because I cannot see the chat now. But I guess you can see the screen. All right, so now you should be seeing a little page, demo SSR, rendered to HTML, question mark, interactive question mark. So this is server-side rendering. It's page that is rendered to HTML and interactive. Technically speaking, rendered to the DOM. Quick question here, who knows what the DOM is? Yes, yes. Okay, I guess everyone knows what the DOM is. Does anyone know what the DOM is? I guess everyone knows. If you don't know what the DOM is, interrupt me with the audio. Okay, so I'm just assuming you know what the DOM is. Okay, so the page here, we have a simple page. And here we are. It's the content of the page, so demo render, the text here is rendered to the HTML. You can see it here in the HTML. And the nice thing as well is interactive. So if you click on the counter here, it's updating. So this is server-side rendering. It's a page that's rendered to HTML, plus interactive, technically speaking, rendered to the DOM. Why server-side rendering? I guess most of you already know that. So there are two parts of it. One is SEO, and the second is mobile performance. SEO, and there are several aspects to it. First, only Google is crawling. So if the page is not rendered to HTML, let's actually see a page that is not an SPA. So here we have the same demo, but as an SPA. So it's not server-side rendered, it's only rendered in the browser, only to the DOM. So the content of the page is actually missing in the HTML. We can see it, it's not here. Whereas in the server-side rendering counterpart, it is rendered to the HTML. This means that a bot or crawler will actually not see the content. It will not see rendered to HTML. It will not see demo server-side rendering. That's a problem for bots because then they will not be able to see the content of the page. That said, Google, the Google crawler does also execute the JavaScript of the pages. So Google can see the content even though the content is hidden behind JavaScript execution. But it's a flaky support. For example, if you have a problem with your page, it doesn't execute, then Google may actually not be able to crawl the content. Also, it's not always clear when Google interrupts because it cannot execute JavaScript forever. So it's not always clear for Google when to stop. So also this is a problem. So Google may stop and interrupt the JavaScript execution, and then it will not see your content. Also, because executing JavaScript is expensive, Google delays the execution of the JavaScript, delays the crawling of pages that have content only shown through execution of JavaScript. So it means if you update your website and it's not server-side rendered, then Google will crawl it later. Whereas if the content is available in HTML, it will crawl it faster. So if you update your website, let's say you're a newspaper and it's important for you to appear fast on Google. So if there's some event and you update your newspaper, you add a page to the newspaper, then you may want to be on top of Google quickly. So that when people Google a new event that just happened, they'll find your newspaper. And for that, you need server-side rendering because you cannot afford yourself to have a delay in the crawling. If your newspaper is not server-side rendered, Google will crawl it later. So you will appear on Google's results, but later. There are also many other issues like this. So in general, SEO, you don't have to use server-side rendering for it, but in general, it's considered recommended. So if you want to be on the safe side here, you may want to do server-side rendering. That's Google. Other search engines don't execute JavaScript at all. I'm not aware of any. Maybe nowadays some other search engines also execute the JavaScript, but I'm not aware of any. So if you want to appear on Bing, Yahoo Search, DuckDuckGo, Yandex, all the search engines, you need server-side rendering. Otherwise, your content will be invisible for all these search engines. Other aspect is social sharing. So if you share your website on Twitter, on Facebook, the content will also invisible to the crawler of Facebook and Twitter. So when you share, you have usually Facebook and Twitter show a little preview of your content, of your website, and it will not be able to do this because the content is hidden behind JavaScript. All right, so that's the SEO part, the accessibility part, so to say. The other part is mobile performance. Executing and loading JavaScript on mobile is usually very slow. So the nice thing is because our content is rendered to HTML, it will the content will be able to be shown on the mobile devices of your users before any JavaScript loads and executes. And this is usually drastically quicker than the mobile device loading the whole JavaScript and executing it. For the page to become interactive, it still has to load the entire JavaScript. But to see the content, so the time the user sees the content is dramatically shortened. So even though the time to interactivity is the same, the time to content is drastically reduced. So if you're a newspaper again, and you usually have lots of mobile users, then you may also want to do server-side rendering so the users can quickly read the content of your pages without having the whole JavaScript being loaded and executed. Okay, so that's for the motivation. Let's quickly, do you have any questions? And can you hear me well, everyone? No? Okay, no questions.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. Any questions? Anyone? LGTM, LGTM, it's good to me. Okay. I hope it's not too boring. I feel like most of you already know this stuff. Did you people already know anything I was just telling? So we got. Okay, seems like so you all knew about this benefits of server-side rendering. Okay, interesting. We've also got a question. All right, I guess you mostly all knew about it already. We got a question about. Okay, Ugo didn't know, so that's good. So you learned something. Someone said, I guess this also addresses the issue of my browser is too old to execute JavaScript. Yes, as well. But honestly, nowadays everyone has JavaScript, and some people have their JavaScript disabled, but that's, I'd say, I mean, I like people who do this, but I would say it's a negligible amount of people who do it. So I wouldn't put it in the arguments of server-side rendering, because nowadays, if you build a newspaper, you can assume your 99.999% of your users to have JavaScript enabled. But maybe in the future there will be some changes that makes some incentives to reduce the amount of JavaScript being loaded in the browser. Let's see, but we're not there yet. So today, the arguments for server-side rendering are mostly about, I would say, only about SEO and mobile performance. Okay, administrations usually run antique browsers. Okay, fair enough. I wonder how they browse the internet then, because nowadays you cannot do. Can you browse the internet without a browser such JavaScript? All right, let's go into how to. Okay, this is going to be more interesting for you. So who is, okay, let me put the question right. Who has heard of Vite before? So yes or no? So start, yes, I heard of Vite before. No, 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 yes, yes, no, no. Okay, Vite is then good, true. Vite, it's a new bundler. I'm not even sure how to call it actually. It's a replacement for Webpack. It's also partially a replacement for Next.js, and it's also a replacement for ReactEurope. Okay, let me show you a little bit. So this is Vite front-end tooling. Okay, that's the proper name, better than bundler. Next generation front-end tooling. how can I describe Vite? Vite is a is a word in French, and it means fast. So fast in French is vite. And as the name points is alluding to, it's really fast. And let me show you how fast it is. And I will also show you what it does. I guess we can get started. Here we are. Let's do this. Is it big enough? I guess maybe it's not big enough. If there's any problem, like if you cannot read the terminal, let me know in the audio. If there's something urgent, audio, because I don't see the chat. Okay, so now we just, let me do it again. So now we initialize, we run the boilerplate generator of it. Project name, Vite project. Let's, since React workshop, React, let's do vanilla. All right, scaffolded Vite project. Let's go into it, Vite project. Yeah. Let's look at the dependencies. And we have that dependency, Vite.js, Vite. And we have the deployed dependencies, React and React DOM. All right, let's look at the source code. So we have basic index HTML here, should be familiar to anyone. Now the interesting thing here is if you look at the script, it says type module. I will explain a bit why this is relevant. And so this is basic HTML and it points to a JavaScript file. Let's look at what this JavaScript file does. And it loads React and it renders this app component. Let's go into it. This is the app component. Seems some like basic counter things again. Right, just some content and a counter count here. Count is okay. Let's start the thing. Let's see the script. Yes. No, we have to install first. Then, if you're familiar with Parcel, this is a similar developer experience. You just define an index HTML. You point it. You add a script tag pointing to some JavaScript, and that's it. Let's look. Here we are. Here we are. Our little counter. Now the cool thing is we didn't do anything. We didn't configure Webpack, and let's also check all the source. Let's check everything. No, this one. Right. Let's check everything. So these are all the files, and here we see there is only one Vite config file. This is the config file. That's it. So here what we do, we basically add a plugin that is React. We add a React plugin so that Vite is able to process JSX. And that's the only thing we do. No complicated Webpack config. The rest just works. So that's really cool. And the neat thing also, so this is a zero config like thing, and the other part that is really neat is it's fast, it's Vite, and we can launch again. Let's clear the cache. It also uses the cache, and let's launch again, the thing again. Bam, it's ready, and the page is here. That's super quick. I mean, the same thing Webpack would take a lot of time, even though it's just a simple app. So the magic here is, because I was telling you, look at this script here, look at this module thing, and this is one part of the magic. It ships ESM code to the browser in a lazy manner. So it only loads. So here, when we load the page, before we load the page, Vite didn't transpile anything. It's only when we load the page that Vite starts to transpiling code. So the first thing Vite does is it loads this HTML we're seeing now. Then it passes the HTML and sees, there's a script here. And this is all done dynamically. This is not done in a pre-optimization step. This is done at runtime when we load the page. So Vite discovers the HTML, say, okay, there's a script here. And only when you see this script would it load the code of SSE main.jsx. And then it will transpile it. This means the Vite only transpiles what it needs. The other aspect of it is maybe we can see it here. Yes, we can see it. So before the server starts, it also has it does a pre-optimization step. It pre-bundles dependencies. So here React DOM, and what it does here is it React is shipped as CommonJS, but the browser doesn't understand CommonJS. So what Vite does is transpiles it into ESM. I guess everyone, if someone doesn't know what ESM CommonJS is, also interrupt me. But I guess since you all knew about server-side rendering, I guess you also know about. Yeah, that's Vite. Any questions about Vite? Let me read the chat. Yes, Vite is very, very light. I mean, it feels light, and also the source code is light. Actually, the source code of Vite is quite readable. Like I contributed to Vite many times, and it's just a pleasure. Like the architecture of Vite is quite natural. When you navigate the source code, you understand what's going on. Whereas like other source codes of other, we will not name them, but it's just a huge mess, and it's just overly complicated. Vite is lean. The source code is lean. Also the amount of the size of the source code of Vite is lean. The approach is lean. It's just a really well designed piece of software. It's just in many ways a pleasure to work with, not only to contribute to, but also as the user to use it. I don't know about the Ionic framework, but many frameworks are very interested. People notice that Vite is having tremendous momentum. So lots of frameworks are making sure that their projects work with Vite. We can quickly look because I'm also curious. Okay, February. That's old. It's closed, I guess, probably. Make it bigger. So yeah, they're working on it. I mean, it seems like it's not there yet. So I guess it depends on this ticket, which is still open. But yeah, as the member of the Ionic framework says, keep an eye for announcements. So yeah, I guess also, I mean, most frameworks actually nowadays already work with Vite. Can we bundle a library with Vite yet? I would say no. I mean, it just one big part. Also, what I didn't show, but this is obvious nowadays. I don't. You can just trust me. It does the HMR, it's hot module replacements. So if you change the file, it will. And also, I can show. It's actually quite exciting because it's fast. That's what I want to show you. Okay, let's. Okay, here we are again. Our Vite app count is. Let's change this count as, and to make sure it's really hot module replacement and on full page. And here we are. Bam. I mean, it's just really fast, and because everything is lazily done, it also stays fast. So if you have 100 pages, it's hot module replacement stays fast, unlike other tools out there. All right, let me see other questions. So yeah, about the library thing. I would use, so Vite is built on top of ESBuild, which is a transpiler, and it's extremely fast JavaScript and CSS bundler and minifier. So Vite is built on top of this, and if you, the only thing you want is to transpile code, which is usually what you need for library. So let's say you have a TypeScript. Let's say you have a Node.js TypeScript library. You don't want to force your users to use TypeScript, so you transpile it to JavaScript. Then you would use ESBuild directly. You don't really need Vite to transpile a library. So yeah, I would use ESBuild instead directly. There's many projects around ESBuild. There's also, yeah, there's many projects around ESBuild that do this. So I would do a little bit of research, what fits your needs best and what you like most, and then use this. But yeah, for library, it does makes slightly less sense. How is it transpiling different from Webpack? Okay, let me answer this after reading the second question. I started to work with Vite 2 months ago, and I use lazy loading in React app. It's very easy, but kind of can't find information about prefetch. I think it only works with Vue at this moment. What exactly do you mean with prefetch? So yeah, I'm not sure what you mean with prefetch. Maybe you can elaborate. Okay, let me check the link. God damn it, it's shitty pop-ups. Okay, but this is, yes, exactly just what you said. It's it has nothing to do with Vite. It's a Vue thing. It's also a React thing. It's an orthogonal program to Vite. You can do lazy loading with Vite just as you can with any other frameworks or bundlers out there. So yes, you can do lazy loading. It's really more a React thing than a Vite thing. Okay, so okay. How is transpiling different from Webpack? So basically, what I was saying, to me, the most important thing is this lazy transpiling approach. Webpack, when you start, so when you have your fresh project and you want to develop it, you have to build the entire application before you can get started. So Webpack transpiles each file of your applications, and also not sure if Webpack has become more clever about it, but it also transpiles each file of your dependencies, and this is massive. Especially the dependencies, because your source code is usually much smaller than the amount of source code in your dependencies. So this is a lot slower. Whereas Vite, I was like I was showing, is only as you navigate your page, it transpiles what your page is loading. So one way to think about it is when you first prepare your application for development with Webpack, Webpack transpiles everything without you having opened the browser, without you having loaded any page. So first step with Webpack, you transpile everything. Then everything is available for the browser. So the browser can just navigate through the transpiled dist output. Vite doesn't do this. Vite, when I run the server here, yarn dev, so when I start the Vite dev server, here at this point, it only transpiled the dependencies. Well, it already did it. That's why I can show you again. Let's remove the cache. Let's start the server again. Okay, here we are. Pre-bundling dependencies. So the only thing it does is what I was saying in so the pre-bundling step, we can see it here. Let's run again. And it's not here because it does it only once. Why should it do it twice? With Webpack, would do it a second time, actually. But anyways, maybe it's gotten clever, a little bit more clever now. So after pre-bundling your dependencies, Vite doesn't transpile anything. At this point, the dev server is run, started, and none of your application source code is transpiled. It only transpiles it when you actually load the page. So first thing is you load the page, the HTML, and now at this point, well, it's already loaded, so Vite already has done his thing. But it only transpiles your files as you load them in the browser. So the browser goes to your localhost part. Maybe I can show you no, because it's not here. Okay. Vite delivers the HTML. The browser loads this HTML we're seeing here. At this point, when Vite delivered the HTML, Vite still didn't transpile our main JSX file. And only when the browser, because this is a script type module, so this is a native browser code. There's nothing to do with Vite. This is just a normal browser request to load some JavaScript. At this point, Vite will receive the request to get main.jsx, and only at this point will it transpile the code. So it's lazy transpiling. Webpack transpiles everything at the entire world before getting started. Vite only transpiles as we go. Does that make sense? Does this affect the speed of loading pages? Okay, good question. I didn't answer that. No, because in production, it actually does build the entire world. So for production, when I can show you. Let's check the script. Okay, let's see. Building for production. Vite is now building for production. And as we can see, it's transforming all the files. 33 modules transformed. And here what we can see is the bundles. So this what we just did here is like Webpack. So building the whole world. And this means for production, it's the same with Webpack. And Webpack and Vite are more. This is also why for the question, should I use Vite for libraries? My answer would be no, because really Vite and Webpack are more tools for development, to develop your app. In production, Vite and Webpack, doesn't make that much of a difference. Sure, you can bundle differently, you can code split differently, but all in all, I would say it's approximately the same results. So the dist folder here will be approximately the same, whether it's Vite and Webpack. Although Vite does nice things. For example, it appends a hash that allows you to aggressively cache your assets. But yeah, all in all, I would say it's not for me. It's not the reason to use Vite. For me, the reason to use Vite is the quick dev speed that is super fast, and most importantly, that stays fast as you scale. I mean, there's many horror stories you can read on the internet about big applications getting so slow, and then they migrate it to Vite, and it's super fast again. So not only is it fast, but also stays fast as you scale. So I would see it more as a dev tool than really a production tool. Does that make sense? Read the chat. Yes. All right. Any other questions about Vite? Okay, I'm not quite curious. Maybe we can do a little quick round again of what do you want to do with server-side rendering? What's your use case? Some of you are working for companies, so maybe you can tell a little bit more about how you're using server-side rendering, if you're considering using server-side rendering, how's your experience so far? Yeah, this is going to be relevant for the next part of the workshop. We got the question. When building, is there a way to remove the unique IDs for the file names? I guess Bruce is alluding to these things. I'm not sure why you want to remove them. There's no, I can't think of any reason why you would want to remove them. I mean, these things are really convenient because it allows you to basically tell the browser, as long as you get this URL, you can cache it forever, because this is the unique hash for it's a content hash. So it's unique for the content of the file. Meaning if the file changes, the URL changes, and the browser knows there is another file to fetch. If the URL doesn't change, this content hash makes sure that the content of the file stays the same, so the URL can cache it forever, basically. So this is really convenient. I don't see. Maybe you can elaborate why you want to remove this unique ID for the file names. I would just keep it. Okay, to have the same file names on each build. Why do you want this? And yes, maybe there's a way to do it. But still, I would recommend to keep it. Less storage. Maybe you want to elaborate why storage will be a problem. I think in general, like images. Okay. I'm not, maybe there's some cases where you have a lot of images and you have some caching strategies. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. Intuitively, I would say, yeah. I mean, static assets are cheap in general. The expensive parts of your apps for deployments are usually elsewhere. It's rarely about static assets. But yeah, maybe there's some use cases where it makes sense to remove the unique ID to have some. Okay, there's a link. I guess I will check it later. Yes, and Vite does. So yeah, this is a little explanation. If you want to know more about Vite, someone posted a link about Vite and explains a bit about it. Okay, for the code splitting. Okay, it is actually, yeah, you're right. It is Vite related, and yes, Vite does support. So how it works is when you do, let me show you. Maybe I can show you. So if you do something like this, and you would So basically you do a dynamic import. Let's see if actually if it works. I'm curious. So anyways, when Vite sees this, it will code split. So yes, Vite. So you were right. Code splitting, lazy loading of source code is somewhat a bundler thing. So yes, and Vite does support this. So when Vite sees this, it will work. It will code split. We can actually quickly see the result of it. The server is not run anymore. Let me run the server. Nope, not working. Okay. It's probably because no, the default export. I mean, default export are usually a pain. We actually had a lot of problems with Vite. With ESM, we actually worked on the last Vite version. Has a lot of improvements about this kind of ESM CommonJS interoperability problems. So okay, anyways, let's see if it works now. Yes, right. Okay, then let's now bundle the thing. And build, and let's see what happens. Normally, Vite should code split here. And here we are. We have, let me make it bigger. We have our app component. It's not bundled. Maybe I can also show you so you don't just believe me. Okay, let's film. Hello Vite. Let's look for this string. Hello up. Hello Vite. Hello Vite plus React. Let's see if it's anywhere here. And no, that's the only file who contains it. So makes me think it does it exactly what we want. Let's also now revert this, and let's see what the next build is going to be like. And now and normally I think it should not be part of the bundle instead of being its own file. And here we are. I don't see it. It's not in there. Let's check where it is. And yes, it's in the bundle. Yeah, so it's in the bundle. So Vite does support code splitting, lazy loading of code with the ESM dynamic import statement. All right. Any other question? Yes, I mean, usually you always delete the dist file, the distribution file. Yeah. All right, let's do this quick. I want to know about use cases, about server-side rendering. So if you could talk about a bit more about your interest, why you're interested, and how, if you're already using it, how you're using it, I'd be really curious to know. Not too long, but since we're not that many, I guess we can still spend some time on it. So yeah, looking forward to hear how you guys use or want to use server-side rendering. Who wants to start? We can also do an audio for this because I will probably ask questions here. Okay, so Marie is saying that your company, why is your company not interested into changing? Because they're afraid of change, or what's the thing?
Yes, I guess so. And the two persons in charge of making such changes are overworked and don't delegate.
Yes, makes sense. I understand. But you should change.
We're looking at it for improving mobile performance. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you well.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that would be our use case. We have specific progressive web apps which we use on mobile devices. Our customers use on mobile devices, and we want to improve it, to improve the startup performance. And yeah, that's why I wanted to look into it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I will talk a little bit more about mobile in a moment, because it's not only, I also want to talk about beyond server-side rendering a little bit. And you may be interested in that. Depending on your application, this could be very, very relevant for you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I guess we can, last chance. So if you want to talk about your server-side rendering use case, I'd be very curious to know about it. So if someone wants to talk about it. I'm here for discovering server-side rendering. I don't use it yet. I mean, server-side rendering is not a silver bullet. For example, if you do an admin panel, don't do server-side rendering. An admin panel will probably never be open in a mobile device. It will probably never be. I mean, it's a private thing, so it's not on Google. There's just no reason to use server-side rendering for an admin panel. It's also one thing I'd like to stress, like server-side rendering is not a silver bullet. It's just one part of your tool belt that you should use thoughtfully. Yes, so for back office, you don't need server-side rendering. But I guess you're still curious about it. All right, anything else? Anyone else? We are using server-side rendering both for performance and SEO for large-scale e-commerce platforms. So yeah, e-commerce is typically a typical use case for server-side rendering, since e-commerce is highly sensitive to SEO. And e-commerce wants the best possible SEO imaginable. And if you want to squeeze out SEO, you really want server-side rendering. And also mobile. More and more people don't have desktop devices, only have mobile devices, and they also do shopping on them mobile devices. So yeah, for e-commerce, you usually need server-side rendering. We also got a question: what are the drawbacks of server-side rendering then? Yes, like you say, never use it for an admin page. So yeah, pages that not supposed to be crawled on, not to be shown on Google results, and pages that are not more. So it's really about two things. It's about SEO, so Google basically, Google, and mobile performance. That's it. There's also a little bit of what I was saying with social sharing. So when you share your website on Twitter and Facebook, but there are ways to do it without server-side rendering. So I'd say it's really mostly about mobile performance and Google. And okay, so the drawbacks. And so the drawbacks and why you should not use server-side rendering then, because you may think, well, I can just still use it anyways, even though I don't need it. Because I mean, it really depends on the application, but there are, I would say, mostly two things. First, your pages will now not only be run on in the browser, they will not only be loaded. So for example, let's have a look at our little demo thing. This app code, app.jsx code, will not only be loaded and executed in the browser, but also in a Node.js server at runtime. Not necessarily a runtime, by the way, but I will speak about this in a moment. I guess I can speak about it now. So let me show you a little server-side rendered app. I already a little demo I already wrote, and then I will also speak about the drawbacks and why server-side rendering should not be used when not needed. All right, this is a little demo. It has 3 pages. Index, SPA, and HTML only. Let's run the demo. Hope you can read the terminal. Actually, yeah, we already saw the demo here quickly. So, okay, let's look at this page. This is basics what I was showing before. This is basic server-side rendering. A little recap. The content here is rendered to HTML and it's interactive because it's rendered to the DOM. Now let's look at the source code of it. Okay, this is the source code. This code in this here it's loaded in the browser. It's also rendered to HTML, and it's rendered to HTML by using a Node.js server. There are 2 ways to the HTML you see here is rendered dynamically at runtime, but we don't have to do that. We can also pre-render it. It's a common technique, also used by Next.js and many frameworks. It's called pre-rendering. It's also commonly known as server static site generators, so SSG. And the idea here is that instead of generating this HTML we're seeing right now at runtime, we generate it at build time. So let me show you. Okay, so our little demo app has a couple of scripts, and it has a build script. Let's see what happens when I run the build script. So here, this is Vite build SSR. So it's building our assets. And now this is the last part here. The last part is not Vite anymore, it's Vite plugin SSR. So this little plugin I was mentioning that I built for Vite. And we can see pre-rendering HTML. And what it does is that it renders the HTML at build time. So when we can have a look. And here we are, that's, yeah, here we are, okay. So this is the HTML. This is this HTML. The HTML is living in the dist file here. So it means all the HTML of all our pages are already rendered at HTML at build time, and we can deploy them. And when we deploy our app, all HTMLs are already rendered. This doesn't work if we. This only works if we, so for some apps, we don't want to do this. Let me show you. So let's have a look at our app again. Now, let's add a little let me check. Why doesn't it want to do it? Okay, I see. Let me quickly fix it. Because so what's there's a little bug in the demo. The file is dependencies. The file is TypeScript, but I don't have TypeScript loaded. So let me just replace the server with a non-TypeScript server code. Okay, I think that should do the trick. Right, the demo should be working again. Okay, so what we did here is we added a little timestamp to our little demo app. As we can see, when we reload the page, the timestamp changes. This is expected because we can have a quick look at the server. So this is server code. It's a normal Express server, nothing special here. We integrated bits. You can see here. Here. Here's our bit integration. So we add the bit dev. So in production, we also that's one maybe that's also interesting. Also about the question how it's different in Webpack in production. Vite only doesn't exist anymore in production. There's not a single line of Vite source code in new bundles in production. So Vite is really only a dev. I would see it only as a dev tool, and we can see it here. So this is a normal Express Node.js server, and in production. So when we're in production, we don't use Vite, but we only distribute the static folder. We were browsing a couple of times now, so this client. And when we're not in production, we add the Vite dev server middleware to our Express app. So this means, like, from an architectural point of view, Vite is only Express middleware. So there's also many cool aspects about this. But anyways, let's skip that part. So here we add our Vite dev server, and here we add our server-side rendering integration, the Vite plugin SSR thing I showed you before that I wrote. Now the interesting thing here is when we get a request, we render the page. So what I want to show you here is that we render the page at request time. That's why we see the time updated here. So because the HTML is rendered at request time, but when we do when we pre-render the page, the HTML is rendered at so when we run build pre-render, it's rendered at build time. So it means now when we let me check. Now we use a simple static server. And we use this script to basically statically serve this file. That's a file we saw a couple of times now. Okay, let me check. Okay, so these are the assets that Vite bundled, transpiled, and bundled, and these are the HTML here the assets, and here we are seeing the HTML. Also here there's an HTML. So our pages, these SPA and HTML only, these are only other pages I will show you in a moment. So anyways, there are HTMLs now at build time. Now let's serve this folder, this client folder, and up. Right, that's because we need to rebuild the application. Our timestamp is missing because we were using an old build without the timestamp. Now let's also bundle the app that has a timestamp. Now let's do the serve. I guess it's because of the browser side. Yeah, it's because of the browser side. But let me show you something else. So here we see what I want to show you, the timestamp not changing, but it's changing because the app is hydrating. Actually, there should be an error about hydration mismatch, but not showing any error, which is surprising. Anyways, let me show you something else. Nope, it's because it's not the same app. Okay, so let me also show you the other pages while we are at it. Okay, let's redo it. This HTML only page is the same page without any browser-side JavaScript, which is an interesting thing I will talk about in a moment. All right, now it should work. Now we should see the timestamp not updating. Anywhere, the timestamp I'm reloading, not sure if you're seeing it, but I'm reloading the app, and the timestamp doesn't change. So that's the whole idea of pre-rendering. That's so when we generate HTML, we can render it at request time or at build time. Pre-rendering, aka SSG, is about rendering the entire HTML at build time. Why doing this? Mostly because of performance and deploy strategy. So the cool thing here is that when we pre-render, we only have our entire app is now only static assets. So here in this folder with everything we need to show the app, to distribute the app. So we only need to distribute this client folder to some static hosts like GitHub pages, Cloud4 pages, Netlify, etc., etc. So one of these many static hosts, and we can just ship it there, and it will just work. So what it means is we don't need a Node.js production server, and that's super convenient. So for example, this documentation page of the plugin, everything here, everything you see is built at build time. So there is no Node.js server. after pre-rendering, your app is only static, is only browser side static assets, nothing else. And if we look at the source code here, this HTML is static. So this means that static hosts like GitHub Pages, Netlify, etc. only have to give them this HTML once, and they'll be able to deliver it on the Vite plugin.ssr.com HTTP requests. There is no runtime here. There is a runtime, but it's only in the browser. So pre-rendering is super convenient to be able to deploy to static hosts. And the nice thing about static hosts is they're super cheap. I mean, they're free. And it's really a super simple deploy strategy. You don't need a Node.js server, production server. So this drastically makes deployments, deployment simpler. And it's also about performance. Static hosts are usually deploy static HTML much faster. All right, so this is pre-rendering. Are there any questions about pre-rendering? I guess no.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I asked in the chat, what if part of the page can be pre-rendered, but some other part needs to change depending on the user? Is it possible to mix both? Because with Next, it's possible.
Yes, you can do this as well with the plugin. You can, I mean, in general, I would actually, you can do this, but I would recommend against it because the benefits are, I mean, it's only a slide, so it's a performance benefit when you do this. It means that the HTML that are static don't need to be re-rendered every time necessarily at production. This is usually a negligible cost, so I wouldn't worry too much about it if I were you. But
I think in our case, it's not negligible because there are so many requests to API, and this is not clean at all, but it's actually very heavy to render the page each time again. But we need it because the user is logged in. So
yes. So you mentioned so you need a lot of computation to do this. Do you need a lot of computation for the API request, or do you need a lot of computation to actually render the HTML? So do you actually need a lot of computation to transform the React code into HTML, or for the APIs, for the API requests? Because from the API requests,
it's a mix, and it's not very well orchestrated because there are 50 developers on the same code, and so in the end, it's not optimized at all.
I can imagine, but yes, you can do this. Basically, how you can do it, you just add a little flag. Can I show you the command directly? So this is the command to pre-render, and you can just add a partial. And when you add a partial, it will just pre-render the pages that can be pre-rendered. And you can also, you have options to opt out of pre-rendering. So you have full control of what pages are pre-rendered and not.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like, can you also tell me, like, I think I was talking a little bit too much about something you already knew, like pre-rendering. I guess you already all know about this. Okay, anyways, let's skip to some more interesting parts. So this is pre-rendering. So So someone was, let me check who it was. One also, so let's go beyond SSR. So server-side rendering, I think should be very clear to anyone now. But also, I think there is more coming to server-side rendering. There's, for example, some people working on partial iteration. And the idea here is to ship. So with server-side rendering, our entire application code is loaded and executed both in the browser and in Node.js. Now, nowadays, there's effort going in the direction of reducing only rendering on the server. So making it that the browser doesn't load our application code. But if we don't load any, let me show you. The problem is if we don't load any browser-side JavaScript, then our page cannot be interactive. So this is the same page, and it has, I can show you the source code for it. So this is what we're seeing, the file we're seeing here is the entire client-side code. So the React and the page are not loaded, executed, rendered in the browser. So it doesn't have any JavaScript. Let me actually show you something else. Now the problem, so yeah, when I was saying it, so the nice thing about having to render a page as HTML only, so no browser-side JavaScript, is that the browser doesn't have to load any JavaScript. So it's faster, but it's not interactive. All right. So this is the page, our HTML only page, and it's not interactive. I'm clicking on the counter here, and the counter is not updating, which is obvious because there's no browser-side JavaScript. The only browser-side JavaScript here is this file, the little log. So yeah, that's the only JavaScript is our console. The only browser-side JavaScript is our console log. And that works for some pages, but that doesn't work for interactive pages. So one thing that is being researched by a couple of people is to only load the code needed to make this counter interactive. This is there are many approaches to it. One is partial iteration. So it means that instead of loading our entire application code, our entire code for this page, we only load the code for the counter. What this means is that the browser will load much less JavaScript and execute much less JavaScript. And remember, it's important for mobile. So someone was saying that they use server-side rendering for mobile performance. And this is a very exciting, this is a new exciting approaches being researched that I would keep an eye on. It drastically reduces the browser-side JavaScript, which is important for mobile. Also, the neat thing about the plugin is that you can so let's imagine you have some, actually I can show you. Let me show you. So this page, this is a documentation page of the plugin. And let me show you the browser-side code for it. Okay, that's not convenient. Looking at all the assets that are being loaded. So, okay, this is Okay, so the first JavaScript, browser-side JavaScript that's being loaded is a default page client file that basically only loads this navigation client file. And just a little side note, it doesn't make the files, the browser script, let me show you. These are prefetched. So for example, here, let me make it bigger. So this asset, so when I go to this page, render modes page, the browser first loads where is it? This file, default page client TS, this JavaScript file. This JavaScript file is only an import of this other navigation client file. So you may think, okay, but that's bad because the browser will do a request just to do another request later. But that's not an issue because the module is preloaded. This navigation client file is preloaded. Here in the head we see module preload navigation client JS. So there's no unnecessary round trip going on here. All right, let's see what's in this navigation file. So these are the only two files being loaded here. This is the only two, this is the whole browser-side JavaScript here. And that's nothing. I mean, maybe you can look at the file. So that's the entire, so we are looking at the entire browser-side JavaScript of this page. That's it. So I think this is the best mobile performance you can get, period, today, is not having a browser-side JavaScript. So you'll be saying, okay, but this page is not interactive. But that's not entirely true. It does have some interactivity. So for example, here, there's some interactivity, a little bit of interactivity. There's not much interactive, but there is interactivity. Or for example, when you click here, that's also that's also browser-side JavaScript. So there's not much interactivity, but there is a little bit of interactivity. So this is a technique I call HTML only. The idea here is that we focus on HTML and we only add a little bit of JavaScript to make it interactive. So we strategically insert the JavaScript, some JavaScript snippets to support interactivity. Yes. Let me think. Yeah. So typically for a website, you do have some pages that are not that interactive and where you can have only a couple of JavaScript lines like this, but some have pages that are very interactive. So now what you can do with this plugin, and then it's not about this plugin. I think it's in general where server-side rendering, the direction where server-side rendering is heading to. I wouldn't consider server-side rendering only about this practice of rendering everything to HTML and loading everything and handwriting everything in HTML, but also in the future there will be more. For example, HTML only, and also I will talk about more things going on the React side. So, but typically in an application, you have some pages that are not interactive, some pages that are highly interactive, and what you can do here is you can render some page as SPA, some page as server-side rendering, and some pages as HTML only. And you can pre-render some pages and some other pages, yeah, and not some other pages. For example, I was saying that for an animated panel, you shouldn't use server-side rendering. But maybe your website has some marketing pages and an admin panel. So yeah, you could use Next.js for the marketing pages and create React app for your admin panel. But that's not very convenient because you end up using two tools, you have two interfaces to learn. And I don't think that's the future. I think the future is really supporting all render modes. I think any framework, any library, any server-side rendering tooling will eventually support all render modes. Because it just doesn't make sense for something like this page to load the entire React library, which is quite heavy. It's like 120 KB, and especially for mobile. For mobile, you really want to minimize the amount of browser-side JavaScript. So I think the future here is that to mix all different render modes. Yeah. Any questions about this? Feel free to also audio, so by chat or by audio. Let me read the chat if I missed something. So yeah, about the drawbacks about server-side rendering. So what as I was showing with pre-rendering, you don't need a Node.js production server anymore. But you can also not use server-side rendering at all, and then you also don't have a Node.js production server. And as Maria was also saying, that at scale, it does come with cost to render your pages on the server. So server-side rendering is not a free thing. It does have a structural cost, an architectural deployment structural cost. So I would really only use server-side rendering only when you need it. And I think the future, which is already implemented by the plugin, is that you can mix. So your admin panel, you run it as SPA, your marketing pages as HTML only, or server-side rendering. And especially for marketing pages, I mean, marketing pages, they want to be first on Google. And Google is being relentless about performance. And they will count your performance into their ranking. So if you have a page like this Vite plugin SSR.com page that has almost no browser-side JavaScript, it will be super fast, especially on mobile. And Google will thank you for it, and you will rank higher. So if you are, and I actually had a user recently, his client was not happy about the performance and the page rank, Google's Lighthouse score, and what they ended up doing is actually HTML only. So they ended up removing all the unnecessary browser-side JavaScript. They only included the browser script that's strictly needed to make the page interactive, and they had huge boost in Lighthouse score, and also I mean, it's difficult to measure, but tentatively also higher page rank. So, yes. So this hybrid approach, this mixing of render modes, I think is the future. If it's so easy, why not use it everywhere? I mean, Next.js makes you think it's easy. But I was saying, like, for example, if you want, with Next.js, if you want to have zero browser-side JavaScript, maybe they made some changes recently. I think they made some efforts in this direction, for example, with React server components, but still not there yet. Anyways, so with the latest stable Next.js version, you cannot do this. So you have to load your entire page on the browser side with Next.js. So you cannot go the HTML only direction with Next.js. So, and yes, you can pre-render and get rid of production Node.js server, but still, when you do the other drawback of server-side rendering is not only that you need a Node.js production server, it's also that your pages are going to be run by Node.js, and this has many subtle consequences. It means that all your code, all your page code, needs to be able to run on Node.js. It's a different environment in the browser, and you will inevitably have encounter problems. I mean, nowadays, most libraries do support server-side rendering, and there are, for example, some React component like a collapsible element, some menu elements, some hamburger, some tooltip. So all kinds of React components know that they are designed to be able to be run on Node.js. But still, there's still problems about it. So you will have problems with it. You will fight with some libraries that have not been designed with server-side rendering in mind. It just complexifies your app. So if you don't need server-side rendering, you're just making something, you're just complexifying your app, and you will lose time on making sure that your all code is being able to run in Node.js for basically nothing. An admin panel, it's just silly to have an admin panel being server-side rendered, and you will have problems with it. So yeah, use only server-side rendering when you need it, and the mixing of rendering, render modes in the future. Okay, I think that's all the questions. Any questions? I think we are actually on time. It's 11:30, so we are on time. Are there any questions?
Yes, will you share the recording with us?
We could ask Patrick. I mean, if I have the recording, I will gladly share it. Yes. I don't know if Patrick is listening. I guess not. But yes, if I get the recording, yes, I will talk to Patrick and I will tell you that you want the recording.
Great. And maybe one last question: when React server components are there, how do you think Vite will still be necessary for the static part, maybe, or?
So Vite in itself is really, so it's really different, two different problem space. React server components and Vite solve two different problems. With the React server components, you still need something that transpiles your code. You still need Vite. You still need the dev tool. React server components cannot. You always need a bundler or some kind of thing that transpiles. For example, JSX code. JSX code, the browser doesn't understand it. Node.js, the Node.js server doesn't understand it. It needs to be transpiled. You need a transpiler. So you need some kind of tool, and that's not React server components. React doesn't do this. So you need.
Okay, so we will need less of the plugins of Vite, but we will still need Vite.
So
yeah.
now
Okay.
the question, exactly. Yeah. So the question is,
thank you.
Will you still need the plugin? Yes and no. I mean, first thing is, React server components is not a silver bullet either. I mean, it's super exciting, and I'm super looking forward to it. And the framework I'm building is going to integrate React server components in it. But you may also not need React server components. I think we really, of course, it's complex, and of course you don't want to have a billion tools in your tool belt, but we still gotta stop thinking there's silver bullets. There are usually no silver bullets, and usually it's about choosing the right tool. And Next.js, they make it seem like there's one way to do it, and it's usually not the case. Of course, it's complex, and of course, we cannot expect anyone to do it the right way. And of course, we need some beaten path that everyone goes to by default. Yes, but there are thinking in terms of silver bullets is dangerous, especially if you are developing big applications for large companies like Le Bon Coin. You may want to have a more nuanced approach for it. If you have 50 developers, it's everything about architecture, and you may want to choose the right architecture for your app. And having a nuanced view on what is the right tooling for the right job is critical. And Next.js is awesome if you want to ship a little e-commerce website on the side quickly. You can use Next.js, it's fine. But if you want to have, if you're a company and you're growing, then you want control over your architecture. And that's actually the raison d'être of the plugin is it gives you control. You are under control, and it gives you the right level of abstraction. You don't have to do it too much manually, but you still have enough control to do the right decisions. Will we still need the plugin with React Server components? One thing that React Server components does, so one way to think about the plugin is, so the headline here is, it's like Next.js, but I do one thing, do it well, Vite plugin. But one other way to think about it is basically only server-side rendering plus it's only a little wrapper around Vite and routing. So we have seen some, in our demo, we have several pages here. We have index page, HTML only page, and SPA page. We have 3 pages here. That's something that React doesn't understand. React doesn't support. React doesn't ship with pages, doesn't ship with routing. And React Server Components doesn't either. So you need some kind of router. You need some kind of routing logic. You also need some kind of, and it's not only routing in itself, there's also some logic around routing. So you can think of Vite plugin SSR to be a thin wrapper on top of routing. Yes, but for React Server Components, the best would be, we talk about it again in a couple of months, and I'll show you what I've installed for it.
Thank you very much. Very clear and convincing.
Thanks. Any other questions? Feel free to ask any question also about the plugin, also any critical question. I feel like I made many mistakes in the workshop, like I was talking too much about the pre-rendering part. I wish it would have been in real life, in a real room. That would have been much easier. I would have seen your reactions. I would have seen that you're bored or not bored. But yeah, it's a bit tricky online like this. Yeah, I hope it was okay. So yeah, any question? Otherwise, I'll say it's I'll call it off. Okay, I guess no question. I hope you learned something. And if you want, I'm going to talk about the plugin in more depth tomorrow. All right, then maybe see you tomorrow. Bye bye.